Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, I would like to talk to you about how to manage your time. So, the first thing to think about is why time management matters. Now, time management is basically the idea that you could potentially be using the time that you get in a day better, more effectively, optimize it in some way, make sure that the things that you need to get done actually will get done. We all have very busy lives. There's lots of things that you want to do. There's a lot of things that you'll need to do. And it is unlikely that you have an excess of time to be able to get everything done without any problems. And at some point, even if you currently feel like you have a lot of time to get everything done, there is going to be a season of life where you are not going to have the time that you think you're going to have. Prioritization can help make sure that you're getting the things that you need to done and you're paying attention to what you're working on so that things aren't getting missed, fallen by the wayside, stuff like that. Managing your time well can actually also help with any stress and anxiety because if you are working towards getting something done, then you are less likely to end up in I sort of end up calling it a stress spiral of doom because it can be really easy to get in your own head about stuff and start thinking, oh, I have all of these things to do, and then you get overwhelmed, and then you get nothing done, and then it's just a day wasted. And that's not to say that doing nothing is always a day wasted, but you have to be a little bit mindful about how often you do that and how you're using that. Because an entire day spent worrying about things is not a relaxing day. If you organize your time well, it can also help with your work life balance because you aren't spending quite as much time worrying about all of the things that you need to do. Now, to select something that works for you, for all of these suggestions and potential techniques and things that I'm going to talk about, you have to actually try them. It's possible that you're going to find something that works for you. It's possible that you're not. It's possible that you're going to have to combine some of the things that I'm suggesting. The important thing is that you find something that makes the most sense for you, for the way that you function, for the life that you have, for the things that you need to get done. You have to sort of figure out what suggestions or systems are the best idea and best fit. The only real way to do that is try it. Now, when you're trying these, you have to make sure that you're giving the trial long enough that it's getting past any initial excitement. Most people will be able to do things for maybe a day, maybe a week, but then you're probably going to get kind of bored with it, not want to do it anymore. And if that ends up happening, that's not the right system. You have to change something so that it will make sure that it's going to actually be helpful for you. Make sure that you have a reasonable time trial, a day to a week. Now, it's possible after a day you're very happy, in which case, great, go to a week. It's possible after a day the system or method that you're trying is awful. You hate it. You never want to do it again. And if you're feeling that at the end of the day, it's not the right system for you. One thing that you can do is you can add a check in to your calendar so that you can go back and say to yourself, hey, I've been doing this for, X amount of time. Is this actually working? Think about the pros and the cons. Make sure that you are being honest and introspective. Don't just say, like, oh, yeah, I guess it was fine. Really think about it. Did this work for you? Did you feel more organized? Did you feel less stressed? Did you feel like you were getting more things done or things done better? If you know you're really bad at something, don't pick the system that relies on that thing. Make sure that if you have something that you know is a weakness, don't just say, oh, well, I need to fix this weakness, so I'm going to harp on that. Make sure that you're not sort of reliant on something that you know is a weakness of yours. You're not trying to be a different person, you're trying to reduce friction and get more done better. Lastly, do not just say, well, I'll try harder. The amount of times that I hear people saying, well, I'll just try harder next time. But the problem is that is not reasonable. It is not reasonable to just say, oh, I'll try harder without any concrete steps or suggestions or check ins or new methods. Why would you be doing this if you weren't already trying your best? If you were trying your best and it's not working, you have to find something to change to try again. Try something different. Don't just say, I'll try harder. Now, the first sort of method that I'm going to suggest is called getting things done. It's a way to get things from your head into a list. The sort of whole purpose of this is that you're not wasting any brain power trying to remember everything. The system has 5 steps. There's capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and then engage. So, capture is basically just, I need to do X. Clarify, what does X mean? Organize. Is X something that I need to do at home, at work, at school? Looking back on X, is there anything, reflect, is there anything that I need to worry about? And then engage is the actual do the thing. Now, this is a relatively strict system, and there's much more detail to it. This is just a general overview. This is a very structured approach. It's very good if you are worried about remembering things. The to-do list is not an internal mental to-do list. So if you find that you really struggle to remember everything, this may be a way of helping you. There's some cons though. The con is there's a large initial implementation time because you're basically like writing a bunch of things down, clarifying a bunch of things, giving more detail on a bunch of things, organizing a bunch of things. It takes quite a while to get everything that you need to into this system. This system also needs constant maintenance because you're always going back and reflecting and engaging. Did this work well? Now I'm going to do the thing. Now I'm going to look back. Does this thing need more details? Now I'm going to write down my next thing, and sort of keeping all of the places that this system needs to work up to date can take a while, which is why I have a warning. If you are a procrastinator, you might spend more time organizing than doing. So this might not be a good system for you. So if you know that you are likely to sort of get stuck in the weeds of things, I do not recommend this system because you are more likely to say, oh, I really need to keep myself organized. Spend all of this time organizing and then not actually get the thing done that you need to get done. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, I feel so productive. Let me pat myself on the back. I've spent 2 hours working on my system today. But you've spent 2 hours working on your system today and 0 hours actually getting anything done from your system today. So you need to be careful with that. Pomodoro technique. This is a very common one. It's very simple. You're basically breaking things down into timed intervals. The intervals are usually 25 minutes of work for a 5-minute break. After 4 intervals, you take a longer break. The point of this, it's trying to help you focus on a task without interruptions. Most people have a much shorter attention span than they think. So focusing on something for 25 minutes can take advantage of that. Now, this isn't necessarily a prioritization technique or anything. This is just a timer that is saying you're going to work for the next 25 minutes. As soon as you start that timer, you spend that 25 minutes working, and then you've got a 5-minute break. Now, some pros. You can focus. Productivity can be easier for a lot of people with a time limit. If you're a procrastinator, this can be really good for you because you have a very specific, I'm going to do this for this amount of time, and then I'm going to get to stop. And so having that little bit of a nudge can be really useful. It can also help with burnout because there are regular breaks. Every 25 minutes, you get a 5-minute break. Every 4 intervals of this half hour, so every 2 hours or so, you get a longer break. So that can be really helpful. Now, there are some cons. This can be really tough for teams or places where interruptions are frequent. Because you are setting this timer for 25 minutes, you have to focus for those 25 minutes. So if you're sitting somewhere, like let's say, for example, you have a family and you're sitting at a dining room table. Um, if you live with literally anybody, including pets, trying to focus for 25 minutes at a dining room table is probably not going to go well for you. If you live alone, it might be great. You can sit there in silence for 25 minutes and nobody will bother you, I assume. I best wishes. I hope that goes well. But if you do this, you have to make sure that you have that sort of place that you can have that focus. So, offices are another good example for a lot of people at offices. It's really hard to have that because people come in and interrupt you all the time. Another con is this can actually interrupt a deep concentration. So for some people, they really fall into their work, and that can be a negative because after 25 minutes, you're like, oh, but no, I was just getting into it. You also have to have a little bit of discipline to stick to your timer. So when it goes off, you really have to start working. You can't just continue futzing around on the internet. Now, warning for this system. If you are the type of person that falls into focus for long periods of time and that's how you get your best work done, this system will annoy the heck out of you. Now, I've tried the system, which is how I know that that's how that is going to go. If you are the kind of person where you can really get sort of stuck into a project and hours can go by, a timer every 25 minutes is going to probably make you want to throw that timer into a wall. So, this might not be a good system for you for that kind of a task, but it might be a good system if you have tasks that you really don't want to do and you know you're not going to fall into deep focus because you really don't want to do that task to begin with. Now, bullet journal. Bullet journal is actually my current favorite time organizational method. It's a physical or a digital journal. It is a very flexible system. That's kind of its whole point is it's super flexible to be able to do whatever you need it to do. Some people like making them really pretty. Some people don't. For me personally, I actually really enjoy that, and I will not discuss my stationery collection with you because you'll probably be horrified. But some people are just like, oh, it's fine. I have printer paper and I'll write on that. Makes me cringe, but you do you. There are some official rules, like a more official bullet journal has an index, which is just a list of where everything is in the journal, a future log, what I'm doing in the future, a monthly log, daily logs, things like that. For me personally, none of that works for me, and I actually do it on a semester system because I am a professor and my life ends up being on a semester system. I have a bunch of things that I have to do before semester hits. I have an endless to do list during semester. I have a whole bunch of notes that I need to do before the next semester starts. And that's how my sort of life gets broken up. Now, for somebody else, they might do it very differently. Totally fine. The pros are that this is very customizable. There's a lot of creativity. You can really make it work for however you want it to work. Cons. Nothing is really helping you with your tasks. There's no, sort of prioritization help. There's no timers. There's nothing sort of pushing you to do things. It's just a way of being able to organize your to do list. It is also easy to fall into the trap of making it so pretty that you do that instead of work. And then you sit there and you're like, oh no, but this month needs to have a super pretty sketch with all of these stickers. And let me just add in a little bit of washi tape. Whoopsies, I didn't do any of the things that I needed to do, hypothetically. Um, I will also say, as a warning, this is a personal warning from me to you. If you like stationery, this can be an expensive habit. Um, if you don't like stationery, maybe it's fine. I wouldn't know, but it can get expensive. Just for a warning. Okay, most important thing this can be integrated with some of the others really easily. This is looking at the 1 to 3 most important tasks of your day. So you are literally just saying, of all the things I need to do today, what is the 1 to 3 that are the most important that I finish today? The pros. Doing the important stuff, high impact stuff, low hanging fruit stuff can really encourage you to do more. You see clear progress, you get that sort of nice little dopamine hit of, oh, I've done something useful. Very specific, high value stuff gets done. You have the one thing, you do it, you're happy with yourself, yay. Cons. Prioritization shifts. are a problem. Your most important task might not be reasonable to get done in a day. It might be too large. Um, you might end up having an environment where 1 to 3 tasks a day isn't enough to continue doing all the things that you need to do, depending on how you do this system. So, this can be a good way of kind of doing is task A or task B more important? Sort of, head to head. Task A is more important. Is task A or task C more important? Oh, task C is more important. And so you can organize your tasks that way and integrate it into one of the other methods. Um, Maybe 1 to 3 things is enough for you, and then that will work great. The warning for this, it's easy to do one thing, pat yourself on the back and say, job well done, me, then go do something enjoyable like video games instead of getting everything that you need to have done. So you might want to think about putting this into other systems, seeing if you can use this as a way to do prioritization, but it may not be enough for you to just do this system. Calendars. Calendars are actually another really good time management technique. You can use a calendar to block out study times. You can use a calendar to block out due dates. So you can do things like say, okay, I have all of my due dates for this semester. If you're a student, I've gotten all of the due dates for the semester. They were in the syllabus. I'm putting them in my calendar. I'm going to put in a reminder 4 days before they're due to ensure that I have plenty of time to do it. Now I'm going to start blocking out my time. I am going to have this amount of study time for this class on that day, this amount of study time for this class on that day, and breaking it up like that so that you can make sure that you have enough time to take the study time that you need per class. One good use of this is planning out your day or your week so you can see exactly what's going on with your time. If you feel like you have no time for anything, you can record your time to see where it's going. So you can plan ahead, this is how I'm going to spend my day. Or you could use it as a recorder. This is how I have actually spent my day, and sort of put it into your calendar as you do it so that you can say, oh, well, it turns out I actually did spend, an hour on social media or an hour on a video game, and maybe you didn't realize that it was lasting that long. So this can be another way of being able to be like, okay, how do I want to break up my time? How do I want to break up my day? How do I want to allocate this resource of time that I have to make sure that it works? A couple of sort of tips for this. Include incidentals. If you have a work day, if you have somewhere that you are going, include your transit time. You do not magically transport anywhere. If you do, hey, come talk to me. I'd love to hear about it because I would love that technology. But if you are going to school, if you are going to work, if you are doing something, you have these sort of incidentals that you have to worry about. How long does it take you to get from your home to your work? You have to add that in before and after work. If you're going to the grocery store, you have to add in the transit time between the house and the store. If you are going grocery shopping, you probably need to make a list. Don't forget to allocate the time for the list. All of those little incidentals. Next, taking care of yourself is also important to include on the plan. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have had to talk to people and say, look, you literally don't have the time to do the things that you want to do. If you assume that you are going to sleep for 8 hours a day, you're going to go to work for 8 hours a day, you're thinking, oh, well, I have 8 hours of a day left. I can get all of the work done for the 4 classes that I'm taking. But you're not taking into account the fact that you have to get to and from work. You have to get ready for bed. You have to get ready for work in the morning. You probably would like to do some of the more enjoyable things in life, such as hygiene, food, fun stuff like that. Food does not magically appear on a plate. If you are not an adult yet, the scariest thing that an adult has to deal with every day, what's for dinner? That question, Hope it doesn't give you nightmares. But like having all of that on your plan is actually really important to make sure that you have enough time. Include some relaxation time. How much time do you need to sort of wind down at the end of the day or relax after work? Include all of that on your calendar. Give yourself a little bit of extra padding. Sure, maybe you think that this thing is going to take an hour, but if you give yourself an hour, 15 minutes, an hour and a half, if it takes longer, you have to eat into other things. But if it takes less time, all of a sudden, you have a little bit of time that you could allocate to something else. And so you don't have that same amount of stress that will end up happening. Now, I have a couple of software suggestions. For some people, having an app or a software can actually help these time management strategies. Now, there are, of course, applications for calendars where you can do things like, most of the major phone companies have apps included, Google, Samsung, Apple, whatever. They'll have calendars included. You can also do other free calendar options. It doesn't matter. Things like the, Pomodoro technique, you can do just the timer on your phone. You can do a regular, stopwatch or clock. You can also get a fancier app, whatever makes you happy. Some people like to do, they're called Kanban style boards, and it's like a visual to do list. It uses cards for items. There's usually categories of to do, in progress, and done. It can sometimes be helpful if part of your to do list is shared with anyone else. So they're actually really popular in companies because then you can say, okay, look, this is the project that I'm working on, so it's in progress. These are the 3 things that I need to do this week, so they're in the to do category. These are the 4 things that I've already completed, so they're in the done category. And then everybody on your team can see exactly where you are. If that sounds like it's helpful for you, there are some free and paid for tools such as Trello, Notion, and other things like that that you can sign up and try out. And you can have that sort of visualized to do list. Um, any timers or clocks can be useful so that you can have sort of reminders to take breaks, get up, water yourself every now and then. There's also some software where you can keep track of what you're actually doing versus what you think you're doing. Um, One of the things that can happen really easily is you say, hypothetically, oh, I'm just going to play this video game for 20 minutes. I have this quick thing that I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden later, you're like, oh, no, I'm actually 3 rounds deep in this PvP battle and I've been here for the last 2 hours. Cool, cool. Um, so it's worth thinking about, do you want to use some software to track what you're actually doing? Make sure that you're being aware of the time that you're spending and it actually matches the time that you think you're spending. Now, some things that you're going to want to think about, some issues with time management. Procrastination. This is probably one of the biggest things that I think gets in the way of most people doing time management. Procrastination is just, I'll do it later. It's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. I have some suggestions on things that you can try to do to help yourself with procrastination. Suggestion 1, um, basically you lie to yourself. Lie about the deadlines. Set all of your due dates early. Set them a couple of hours early, a couple of days early, depending on what's reasonable for those due dates. Tell yourself that there is no flexibility. Everything has a firm deadline. Be careful that you don't start thinking of due dates as flexible. Don't get a nerd to them. You'll miss things. Just start saying, oh, why, yes, my lab is actually due at noon on Thursday instead of, midnight on Sunday night, because then giving yourself that extra time, tell yourself it's due. Then if anything goes horrendously wrong, you have a little bit of time to fix it. Next, consider bribery. Reasonable small treats. So if you are getting a lot of things done, think about what is a good, reasonable small treat for getting that thing done. Maybe it's a little bit of time with your video games, maybe it's a little bit of time reading or watching TV or whatever it is that you happen to do and enjoy doing. Another thing that I have actually personally tried, and I know I've seen other people suggest as well, as you are working through your to-do list for the day, Leave something undone that's a small, easy thing. That's the clear next step. And then just leave for the day. When you come back the next day, you can jump right into that small, easy thing. And you can sit there and you can tell yourself, I'm just going to do this small, easy thing. Then you start getting into it, and then you'll be able to sort of continue with your workday. It can really help that mental block of either not knowing what to do or not knowing where to get started, or even just that mental block of the literal starting, because that way you have this small, easy thing and you can tell yourself, well, it's just this one thing, and sort of trick yourself that way. So, if you do struggle to get started, this can be a really reasonable way to get around that. It should be something relatively small, relatively easy, relatively obvious. So, if you have, let's say 10 steps in the lab, and steps 9 and 10 are relatively easy, you could save those for the next day. That's where you start, and then you can continue working on your homework from there for your other classes. Be careful you don't fall down the rabbit hole of prioritizing organization over doing the actual thing. I started with some methods and a little overview of some popular time management techniques, but it can be really easy to fall into the habit or rabbit hole, I don't know what else to call it, of paying so much attention to the system or method or organization that you don't actually do the thing. And for procrastinators, that can be a big problem. So make sure that you're not giving too much focus on that. Make sure that you are still getting the stuff done that you need to get done. Some other roadblocks. If you are struggling with executive function, so you are really struggling to sort of break things down or you're having difficulty focusing, then some things that you can do to help with that. Consider having check-ins. So if you have somebody that you are talking to, and even if this is a, friend, family member, whatever, that you can tell them about what you have done today, what you're going to work on tomorrow, that can sometimes help sort of talk through. So if you are starting to struggle to figure out what should I do next, having somebody as a sounding block can be helpful. If you have somebody that you can sort of talk to, bounce ideas off of, or that can help plan things, even if they don't understand what you're doing, they might be able to help you break down the thing that you need to do. Check-ins will also give you the ability to help hold yourself accountable because you sort of have this person, even if it's a friend or a family member, that you have to face and say, no, I didn't do that. For a lot of people, even just that is enough that they're like, no, I think I will actually do the thing. Okay, next. No is a whole sentence. For a lot of people, they can really struggle with this. Think about your personal priorities. Think about what it's reasonable to say no to. If you say yes to everybody, you are not going to do anything well. If you know you are in a really busy season of life, if you know that you have a really busy semester or quarter or whatever it is coming up, think about what is reasonable to say no to. Don't volunteer for things that you don't have to do. Think about how you can prioritize to make sure that you aren't basically driving yourself crazy. For example, you have a semester coming up and it's the last semester of school. That's probably not a good time to volunteer to do three other things. Let's say it's, the fall semester. You have the fall semester, you're working through it, it's very busy, this is your last semester of school. That's probably not a good semester to volunteer to be the sort of holiday gathering place for everybody in your family and offer to host a secret Santa at work and, and. Think about saying no, think about not volunteering, think about what you have time for and be realistic about it. If there's a way that you can say no, you might want to think about it. If you struggle to say no, then again, friend, family member, something like that, consider talking to them. One of the things that I actually do with a basically family member is offer gold stars. And if they say no 10 times, then they get 10 gold stars and a prize. So it might sound silly, but it actually kind of helps. At the end of 10 gold stars, I buy them a book. So think about things like that and sort of who you could do those check ins with if you know you struggle with that. Now, another thing you could do, review your days and weeks. Figure out where you're wasting time. Are there unexpected things that you're spending more time on, or are you spending time in places that you didn't realize? For example, maybe as you review your days, you thought you were only spending, half an hour a day on video games, but it turns out it's actually closer to 3 hours. Or you thought you were spending 20 minutes just tidying up the house really quickly, but it's actually closer to 2 hours every day. You think, dishes are only going to take you 5 minutes, but it turns out it actually takes you an hour because of everybody in the house, dishwasher issues, whatever it happens to be. But go through and review the day, review the week, so that you can see if there's places where you aren't allocating enough time, and that's part of what's stressing you out. Another suggestion, consider body doubling. Now, this is actually a common suggestion for people that have some attention difficulties, but body doubling is the idea of you working on something while somebody else works on something. It's very similar to like parallel play, where you might be working on your homework, they might be working on their homework. You're not necessarily interacting, but you are sitting together to both work on homework. Doesn't have to be the same homework. Don't even have to be really good friends. You're just both sitting there and sort of both working at the same time. If you don't have somebody that you can do that with, consider music or an audiobook. Don't do a new audiobook, you'll pay too much attention. Pick an audiobook of a book that you've read recently or something that you are very familiar with, and sort of have that going as a way of being able to sort of mimic the body doubling feeling, so that you can have sort of that feeling of somebody else sitting there with you, keeping you company, that kind of thing. Okay, so those are all of my suggestions and sort of an overview of methods for time management. I hope you are all having a wonderful day, and I wish you all luck managing your time.